Thank you for tuning in to this meeting of the Downtown Development Authority. This meeting will start at 8 a.m. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for tuning in to this meeting of the Downtown Development Authority. This meeting will start at 8 a.m. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for tuning in to this meeting of the Downtown Development Authority. This meeting will start at 8 a.m. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for tuning in to this meeting of the Downtown Development Authority. This meeting will start at 8 a.m. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for tuning in to this meeting of the Downtown Development Authority. This meeting will start at 8 a.m. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for tuning in to this meeting of the Downtown Development Authority. This meeting will start at 8 a.m. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for tuning in to this meeting of the Downtown Development Authority. This meeting will start at 8 a.m. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for tuning in to this meeting of the Downtown Development Authority. This meeting will start at 8 a.m. Please keep your sound on, and we'll see you soon. Thank you for tuning in.
All right. I'd like to call to order this Downtown Development Authority meeting Wednesday, April 13th, 2022. First order of business is to approve the meeting minutes from March 9th.
I move approval. Support.
Have approval and support. Any comments or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, City Center infrastructure replacement. Mr. Elledge is walking to the podium as we speak.
It's a long one. Oh, wait, yeah, did we skip financials?
Oh,
Yeah, right.
okay. Yes, you may go.
Good morning, everyone.
What's wrong with me? Okay.
In your packet is the statements ending March 31, 2022. Throughout this year, at this point, we are 73% of the way through our budget in the non-tax fund and 35% in the local tax fund. This month, we did pay our winter tax reimbursements to the developers, which we have agreements with. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Any questions at all? It's quite a list of payments this month.
Yes.
So we would need a motion to approve Statement D.
Yes, please.
Any other comments or questions? Good morning, Mayor. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Now, Mr. Elledge, you may walk to the podium.
I was like, man, you guys breezed through the financials. Jeez. Good morning, everybody. Is there another slide after this? No. All right, that's cool. I had a map for you, but it didn't make it. That's okay. So I'm here today to put forth a project for replacing some trash cans in and around City Center. So we went through the last couple of years and have really been implementing the streetscape guidelines and taking the old trash cans out and sort of unifying the look. We've had 2 to 3, 4 in some cases types of trash cans out in downtown. But like I said, we've been over the last couple of years integrating and sort of unifying that look of trash cans and just broad infrastructure in downtown. So the request before you today is for $110,990 to replace 35 trash cans along Monroe Center and then a couple in the surrounding area. This replacement will basically cover all of the existing trash cans that are left in the district that are not up to the street-based guidelines. We'll have a handful that will get replaced or get added rather when the Ottawa project infrastructure goes out in the next couple of weeks. But once this project goes through and the trash cans are installed, we can start pivoting to other types of infrastructure like benches and other things and continue implementing the streets-based guidelines. There's not a whole lot to talk about because they're trash cans, so I'll take any questions that you all might have.
Just a clarifying point, the memo says 111,990?
Yep, it sure does.
Okay.
Good catch.
All right. It's 1,000 here, 1,000 there.
It all matters.
Any questions at all? These trash cans are very important. They look nice, actually.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Mark did a great job. Good job, Mark.
Yeah. All right, need a motion to approve this expenditure. Thank you. All right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, motion carries. All right, Mr. Kelly, would you like to kick off the 23 budget?
I would, yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, onto the FY '23 budget discussion. So a reminder, the action requested before you this morning on this item is to recommend the DDA's local tax and non-tax increment budgets to the City Commission for authorization. We know the 5-year priority plan that goes in your packets sometimes is tough to translate, so we'll walk you through some of the highlights. Staff will come up and give you the little more in-depth look at projects, and then happy to have discussion and Q&A. So before we get into that, obviously there's been a lot happening this year with opening of some new headquarters, more murals, events like World of Winter, projects like Rosa Park that'll be opening up soon. So we've continued to deliver on community priorities that we've seen, and there's quite a bit more on the way with projects like Perigo, with Beaumont Health, Spectrum Health, starting their CTI project, Gazelle Sports opening at the end of the month, Tapestry Square, and many more. I think it's just fair to say that there continues to be positive momentum in downtown, and we expect to see that in the years to come. But there's also plenty more to do based on the community priorities in GR Forward. We're about 6.5 years in now to the 10-year plan. And have seen a lot of good progress. As we track it, we see about 71% of the priorities and projects that DGRI was listed as the lead on complete. But of course, the last 25% is the hard stuff. So we got a lot of work to do, and that's, I think, what you'll see in the budget that we're going to present. So some of the highlights, kind of an overview in terms of project expenditures, a little over $14 million. That's just toward projects, not including administration or debt service. That'll go toward almost 100 programs, projects, and initiatives. 100% of those discretionary expenditures are related to the implementation of the plan, which is an important metric for us. We want to make sure the money is going toward the community priorities. In terms of revenues, which is obviously how we accomplish this, net tax increment you see up there is just a little over $7 million. The non-tax revenue, which is primarily parking from the Dash West lots, about $350,000. That is up from what we projected last year, but still down from 2019, 2020. We think, and I've talked a lot with Tricia and our friends at Mobile GR, that that's a conservative estimate given the activities and events that we've seen coming back, but we'd rather err on the side of being conservative and be surprised later. So overall revenues, about $9.5 million. And then when you add that to our fund balance, you see the total amount of revenue that we have to work with. And then just some highlights that impact the revenue. This year, importantly, our gain sharing rebates that are a product of our last TIF plan update jumped from 10% to 15%. So we've seen a little bit of a bump on those last year. Around $827,000 were paid out. We expect this year it'll be about $1.2 million. It's a percentage of our actual increment generated, so these are our best estimates right now. And then that will step up 2 more times through the life of our current plan, so up to 20% in FY28 and 25% in 33. And then some other expenditures to note, administration, up slightly this year to $1.5 million, but still quite a bit lower than the overall industry standard. That is really just a function of increased costs that we have to account for, both for our team, but also for our contracts with legal and some of the other things that we pay out. TIF reimbursements, again, those are the payments that come through our development support approvals. This year we paid off 4 projects you see up there, added in residents in, and then have to account going forward for the Waters building right-of-way, as well as the Studio Park Tower that have been approved in the past 2 years. So $1.6 million of the overall budget goes directly towards those important projects that have come downtown. And then on the debt service side, half of that right now is estimated to go toward Lion Square. We'll know a little bit more about that project, obviously, once we get a permit and get it out to bid. But current estimates have a debt service payment of $360,000. And then the remaining debt service obligations are for DeVos Place, Ionia Avenue, near the downtown market, near the downtown market. So about $750,000 overall. And then, of course, the big highlight on the debt service side is that you will not see a school tax increment budget this year because we'll be making our final payment on the arena later this month. So a momentous occasion, to be sure, but just wanted to make sure that we all recalled that, and we'll have a celebration in the future, because that's a very important role that the DDA has played. I think 2 more slides from me, and then I'll invite staff up. Things I wanted to highlight. One is that there are obviously a lot of big projects that are getting talked about right now, and we'll get into those a little bit more coming up. The way that we are thinking about projects like 201 Market, the amphitheater, like the Dash West lots that we will likely be listing, we're getting an RFP out in the near future. We expect to see some continued movement on those this year, but what that is going to entail right now is still a little unclear. And so the budget doesn't necessarily reflect that, but we know that going forward, we may have to come back and have conversations with you about what that would mean for the DDA. But as we think about the amphitheater with the green space trail connections, with the announcement of the $55 million grant that came from the state, there are a lot of big picture things moving right now. But as we sit here today, we don't necessarily know how that's going to play out in the coming year. And so just wanted to highlight that we will likely need to have some discussions in the future that'll have some implications for our FY23 budget. And then this is my last slide before I'll call Andy up for an overview of Goal 1. This just gives you a sense of breakdown of GR Forward projects and the budgets in the FY23 overview. So that's the list of the expenditures, and Andy and the team will come up now and give you some more details on projects.
Okay. Goal 1. Do you have a question?
On the revenue side, just if you could talk for a minute, Tim, about property tax revenue. I noticed thought I saw a 1% estimated increase. Is that what we experienced this year? I haven't looked at that in a while, like I used to, but it feels kind of low.
Yep.
Is that also very conservative?
From a budgeting perspective, we tend to err on the side of being conservative. I think the actual jump this year, we actually, came in higher this year on revenues on local tax than we budgeted, to the tune of about, I think it was 8% overall. So we've seen good growth, but given some of the uncertainty, we historically have always been around 1.5% for budgeting. Yep.
So goal one is going to look, much of this will look familiar. We've learned over the years that goal one is complicated and patient work, but I think this year, perhaps more than the previous years, we're very hopeful that we're going to start seeing a lot of action this year. And in the years to come, some of you may have heard Grand Rapids Whitewater working to remove the dams and put the rapids back has submitted their permit to the state. Working with the city, they've also put out a call for construction management services on that in-channel work. We've got a couple of edge projects getting in the queue in the permitting process and hopefully underway. So later this year, early next year, and then in the years to follow, we're going to start see the efforts in the corridor pick up. Just a quick sort of a refresher here. The goal one really breaks down into three sort of channels of work, if you will. One is the in-channel work to remove the dams, as I just mentioned. This sort of the second piece of that is the reimagining of the edges, taking a lot of underutilized, industrialized, sort of isolated spaces along the river corridor and looking at redevelopment opportunities as public space and parks, also housing, commercial office opportunities as well. And then importantly, connecting it all with the trail is sort of the third piece of this puzzle, and connecting all of these pieces together in the urban core, but also regionally into the regional recreational trail system. So just jumping into a few of the projects here. I know we've talked about Lion Square a lot around this table over the years. We're very hopeful with Grand Rapids Whitewater and that permitting process getting underway. That also helps to facilitate the advancement of this project. So we're getting geared up to get moving into finalizing construction documents on this project and hopefully underway by the end of this year or early next. We've had a long-running conversation with the Grand Rapids Public Museum, who is probably just a step or two behind Lion Square in terms of its implementation, at least on the river's edge. You might remember last year we budgeted and invested in quite a bit of design work that the museum has been doing on the river's edge, rethinking how the trail comes here and what the access looks like to the river. They anticipate finalizing those documents, getting into a permit process potentially as early as this year as well, and getting in a construction mindset as well. So we have budgeted for some investment in the implementation of that project as well. And then the trail pieces. This is, you all remember the goat path behind Cold Brook that we blazed a couple of years ago in partnership with the city. This section over here is that next section looking north, the Leonard to Ann connection. That connects downtown to essentially Riverside Park and the White Pine Trail. So a very, very critical connection for us. I've been working very closely with the city on that project, and we've invested or budgeted to also support the implementation of that project. They anticipate breaking ground in 2023. We're also budgeting for some trail design work on the south side of downtown, across from Fulton to Wealthy Street, making that second critical connection to Millennium Park, and then on to our partners in Ottawa County. On the just sort of on the programmatic side, a couple other things I want to highlight. We have budgeted for some additional fundraising services to help continue to sort of put the financing package together for a lot of these projects in partnership with the many partners in the corridor. We've also budgeted for a second phase of an economic benefits analysis that you all might remember we did about a year and a half ago, just starting to take a preliminary look at what the economic benefits of these investments in the corridor could mean. We're going to take a little bit broader view of that now that we have a view of some of these bigger projects that Tim mentioned. We also anticipate that some of these grants that we might apply for require a little higher level of cost-benefit analysis, so that's something that we want to be in a position to respond to. And then the final thing I'll mention, we've also budgeted for sort of a reevaluation of operations and management of the actual trail system, and really keeping us in a good position to continue to think about sustainability, right? We've talked about a lot of construction, investment, building stuff, also ramping up that conversation about what the maintenance sustainability strategy looks like in the years ahead. That's goal 1. Any questions? I'll invite Kenzie up to chat on goal 2.
All right, good morning, everyone. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Kenzie Channing, and I am in charge of Goal 2 for engaging neighbors and making downtown an awesome neighborhood to be a part of. So a few things I will say, first of all, that I came in halfway through FY22, so it was really a learning experience and getting to understand the community first, but now getting to know neighbors and having great conversations with them. We have a plan moving forward for FY23 that I'm excited to share with you. So I have been doing a lot of research and talking with neighbors about what it means to build community downtown and what it means to be a neighbor downtown. And we've come up with the idea of 4 C's. So the first thing is communication, and I hope that all of you are receiving our weekly newsletter for the DNN. We have increased the opening rate, the engagement rate by 12%. That's over 500 opens every week since January. So we are super excited about the opportunity to engage people digitally, just right in their homes, right where they are, about what's going on downtown. With that also being said, for just the waves of COVID and sometimes being able to get together and sometimes not being able to get together, we are exploring digital options to connect community to be able to, again, keep that communication open and keep neighbors aware of what's going on downtown. So that is for communication. Convening is going to be just a huge opportunity that I see in FY23 to get neighbors together for events where they really just get to know each other, talking about issues that are facing the community and having a chance to connect on those things. So that will look like monthly events, whether that's a walk with Caroline Cook to look at the beautiful murals in Hartside, or it's an informational meeting with members of the city or other organizations in town just to explain what's going on in the neighborhood. We're also looking at building capacity of neighbors, so making sure that they can organize around issues that matter to them, and they also know who to talk to, where to go, what the processes are to make change that they want to see in their neighborhoods. So that is something that we are working on through the DNN. I'd also like to invite each of you to the DNN meeting. We meet the first Thursday of every month, and it's a great opportunity to really get a pulse on what's on neighbors' minds downtown. And then connecting neighbors to resources, of course, is a big thing that I want to focus on through partnerships. So we are partnering with nearby neighborhoods with the Grand Rapids Neighborhood Summit coming up. We're really excited about that. And just really any organization that is looking to improve the lives in our community, we would be happy to partner with. For example, we're continuing the work with the Hartside Quality of Life Study that is underway. We're interviewing members of the community in Hartside to understand where we can continue to meet the needs and improve the quality of life. So doing a lot of work, lots of conversations, and turning those conversations into action is really what we're looking to focus on for FY23. Any questions?
No questions?
Wonderful. All right, Mark will come up next.
Okay, good morning. Goal 3, so that is the implementation of a 21st century mobility strategy, and this is a lot of work that is in collaboration with the City of Grand Rapids and specifically Mobile GR. I'm going to highlight a few of the things. The one up in the upper left corner, the Ottawa Avenue, Hastings to Newberry, you guys saw that last meeting. With an approved budget for that, but that resides in this new fiscal year for the reconstruction of that. We've got a lot of plans to continue to do implementation of installing bike racks, and just as a reference, last year, or actually 2021, we installed 143 or we had installed 143 bike racks in the downtown. So we continue to increase the opportunity for that type of parking. So that also resides in goal 3. Transit shelters, something that is usually in the budget. We've pared that back a little bit this year because of our inability to implement some of those, but we are moving forward with one in particular on Monroe at this point in time. So we should see at least a few of those being installed in the next year. Wayfinding, this is a big one in terms of what we've been working on. So this budget will include implementation of the phase 1 of that project this year. So we're really excited about that, and I think we're really close to getting that moving in terms of the implementation. The furnishings, we do include money in the budget for furnishings, similar to what Melvin was talking about earlier. So that may include additional trash cans in more strategic locations, obviously looking at more bench infrastructure and updating some of that, and then even incidental things like, fixing or installing electrical outlets and things of that nature, especially in light poles. Ongoing pedestrian safety projects, so we've got 9 countdown timers that we're still planning to do downtown. That's going to carry over into this new budget. We've got a variety of other pedestrian safety features that I think will be coming to you next month, and those include enhancements to various intersections downtown with primarily rapid flashing beacons, but there's also a pretty aggressive enhancement at City Hall on Monroe. So that's residing in this budget. We've got obviously dash support, which is an ongoing support for that initiative. And then the accessibility initiatives, which is a collaboration with Disability Advocates of Kent County. And with that, we are really continuing some of the accessibility audits that have proven beneficial over the course of the last few years. That really resides with disability advocates and their test pilots and assessing some of the accessibility aspects of the downtown, how people get around, the pathways in the way that they're getting around. We're moving towards more integration of the accessibility review of various projects. So every time there's a project, we integrate disability advocates into that in some way, shape, or form, so that we're considering some of these things that need to be considered to make the downtown more inviting for everyone. And then the other thing that's on the horizon with the initiatives is an accessibility council, which they're trying to set up with leadership from the 5 cities. So we're really excited about that, because that really can, I think, begin to integrate some of this more broad accessibility things that we need to do within the downtown and the built environment. And then the other thing that doesn't show up on this slide, but I think is important, and you can see it in the narrative, we have a budget line item for concept design solutions for the future of Monroe Center. So one of the things that we're thinking about is the future of that 3-block corridor, and what happens when we have to start reconstructing that. So at some point in the future. It's not imminent, but I think having at least some design concepts in place, we can at least be ready to move forward with that when it needs to happen. So that's something that we will be doing this fiscal year as well. And so are there any questions about Goal 3? Okay. Melvin.
Slide's not in there. That's okay. I can still talk about Goal 4. All that work, Mandy, and it still didn't show up. So Goal 4 is driving economic development and job growth in downtown. And so basically, I just want to highlight some of the big things that we're looking at for the next fiscal year. So one of the things that we've really done and dug into this year, and it will continue to be a trend, obviously next year, but in the future, is the addition of new data sets to our, as Marion likes to say, data repertoire. So if you recall, we started with physical counters, boxes that were attached to poles and counted people or spiders or whatever broke the laser. We kind of graduated from that to Placer AI, which gave us not only pedestrian counts, but really exhaustive look into not only how many people were coming downtown, but what they were doing when they were downtown and where they were going. And in some cases, how they were spending their money. So we just recently added CoStar to our data set. So looking at vacancies in downtown, square footage of open retail and office spaces, going rates for all of those things. And it really helps us kind of hone in on where are there gaps in the market, where are there opportunities for us to step in, and what does it look like in terms of reporting out sort of the vitality of downtown. So really excited about that data set. We just got it, I think, last week, and continuing to work, Marion and I continue to work to look for new data sets to continue to add to, like I said, our data repertoire, to really kind of flesh out our data and really understand kind of who's coming downtown, why they're coming downtown, and be able to make really good decisions based on some of that data. The other things we'll talk about are looking at budgeting for next year is business association support. So we continue to support the 4 business associations, the Hotel District, Hartside, Monroe North, and the West Side Business District, in sort of their ongoing organizing and operational efforts. So helping them with things like banners, infrastructure, planning meetings, getting things situated for those meetings, and then supporting some of their community-oriented events, as well as paying dues into those that require dues. Additionally, looking for opportunities to incubate like new retail in the downtown. So we have the night markets coming. I believe they start up next month, May, down at the 555 lot. This year we supported, or this fiscal year, we supported the SODIV Shop Hop, so small pop-up retail on South Division, sort of oriented around the holidays. Looking for more opportunities to do that sort of stuff, to kind of incubate this retail from folks who are probably selling products or making products who can't quite make the jump to brick and mortar, but giving them an opportunity to participate in the downtown economy and hopefully grow their brand awareness and be able to kind of maybe one day plug into a future storefront in downtown. The other piece of the puzzle that we're looking at for the next fiscal year is working with businesses to provide them with ongoing support and education. So we're planning a program for next month called Storefront Mastery. So working with a consultant to help storefronts really kind of take the reins on their storefront and really be able to design and make them active places. Places that are engaging, places that really draw people into not only their storefront, but sort of have the spillover effect of activating and making vibrant our actual physical downtown space. We look to continue the retail incentive program as well. So really targeted approach to assisting new businesses and startups coming into downtown, specifically with a retail focus, so looking to kind of bring in new retail opportunities in downtown. And again, that's kind of geographically targeted to the Monroe Center and surrounding area. I think that's about everything that I can remember from my slide. So I'll take any questions if there's any questions. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
No, my slide isn't up there. Mandy and I worked really hard to get it in there this morning. Still didn't show up.
Sorry, Melvin.
That's okay. Just gonna go private.
Morning, everybody. So I'm here to talk about Goal 5 budgeting. And overall, our budget this year is pretty similar to what last year's was. We support over 50 or so programs within the Goal 5 like budget line items, and then within that there's so many more projects within each of those line items or those project series. So we have support for events, and we support and run over like 150 events a year. at least. So this supports like World of Winter. We have State of Our Downtown, our silent disco event sponsorship support like Art Prize and things like that. And then we have our public space activation line items, which is, we've got alley activation, our pop-up performer programs, murals, busking programs, the Activate This Place grant, which has been a really good success. That's for grants for up to $5,000, and this is the one that's probably changing the most out of the programs, is that we're recommending the grant be up to $10,000 to support artists better financially, to be able to get a higher quality work that can withstand the elements outside, which is something that we're learning a lot with public artwork. And then, of course, we've got place management stuff like the dog park. We're working on a new dog park on the west side. The ambassador programs, clean and safe and beautiful, like the Lou, very important. So adding another Lou, and all of our scavenger hunts and walking tours and stuff like that as well. And then we have infrastructure, and I'm gonna pass the torch to Mark here that's gonna talk a little bit about all the infrastructure programs we have going on.
Thanks. Hi again. So yeah, this is the portion of Goal 5 that's really about the reinvestment in the public space. And I think that we're trying to think about it in a very purposeful way, the way that we're investing in this civic space, and really with an eye towards what we can be putting in place, what we can be constructing, what we can be implementing in the future. So many of these projects that I'm going to talk about have the potential to begin implementation next spring, if things fall into place. So I think that it's important for us to begin to get in front of that and think about how we're staging these and phasing these in order to see that implementation through, at least in pieces and parts. So I think the pieces and parts comes into play with a project like the Hill and River Network, which we were here last month with you guys talking about. This is a lot of parts. Obviously, it's not something that is going to be undertaken all at once, but there are pieces of it that we believe can be moved forward. So I think that the budget this year includes a plan to move forward with selected elements of this, with construction documents and bidding documents, with the intent of hopefully building some of that stuff in the near future. So we don't know what those elements are yet because we're still in design phase, but we should know by towards the beginning of fall where we're moving with some of those things, and then we can move forward with some of the construction drawings with those. Another project in a similar way but more targeted is the Van Andel Arena Alley. We've been working with a consultant on that. We're a little bit further along with the design of that. So this year's budget, the fiscal year 23 budget, includes some of the construction drawing funding for moving the phase 1 forward. So that's construction drawings and bidding, but also in phase 1 is the actual construction. So we have a portion of the construction cost included in our budget this year, and that also includes, as Kim mentioned, the Lou. So the second Portland Lou will be in phase 1 of this project at an area yet to be determined. You can sort of see it down in the bottom of phase 1 near Ionia. So that's sort of an eye towards the future, with potentially the goal of breaking ground on this thing in the spring of next year. Some other projects that are similar in their nature. If you remember Nabawan Park, the Mounds area, we went through an extensive input and design session a few years ago with that project. I think we're at a stage now where we feel like we can move forward with getting the construction documents complete. And once that happens, we can get a bid and have a reasonable idea of what that's going to cost to construct. So what our plan here is to include the money for the construction documents, some money for, or in this case, I don't think we're including the actual construction cost for this year. And then keeping in mind that this also not only includes the mounds reconstruction, but a new public restroom building in that area. So we want to get this teed up so that we can begin, again, thinking about the construction of this. The interesting thing about this particular location of Anabawan is that it doesn't really get impacted by the in-river work, so we think we can get this thing moving in spite of what's happening with the construction along the river. So that's a great a way to sort of begin trying to implement some of this stuff, again, with an eye towards implementation. As you remember, with the Calder Plaza project, we sort of took a step back with some of that stuff. I think we want to begin the re-engagement of that process, really looking at what phase one can be and really looking at a tenable phase one. And that may or may not be the original idea that we had with the pavilion. It may be a different location, but we want to get that work started again and again, like try to figure out a way to get a realistic phase one where we can see progress happening on the Calder project. Another project down here in the corner that we're working on, not quite as extensive as these projects, but this is a pop-up futsal court that we've been working on for quite a long time over the last few months. Corey in our office is leading that. And the goal here is to build some temporary futsal courts over on the Lot 9 on the west side, to see how the idea of using that and maybe putting in permanent infrastructure someday somewhere else. So this is very in line with the way that we've done things with like the pop-up dog park and the pop-up skate park. So we're really sort of excited about that. I think that's it from my slides. The other thing that doesn't show up in the slides that I wanted to address, in the packet, you'll notice that we have a line item for Campow redesign services. So this is very similar to some of the other projects that I've talked about. We want to get at least some ideas about what we can do with that space in terms of upgrading it, looking at safety concerns, and accessibility concerns, and so we're thinking about hiring some professional services to do some design work on that. We don't really have an idea of when the construction for that would happen, but I think this is a way to begin moving that thing forward and having a better idea about what the program would be and what it might cost. So I'm happy to take any questions about that, or if you have any questions for Kim. Okay, great.
Thank you.
So that's the budget for the year. Again, our ask to you is to recommend it to the City Commission for their consideration. The current schedule has us there May 10th. Then it would come back to you all for adoption after that.
So I would entertain a motion to recommend the budgets to the City Commission for approval.
So moved.
Thank you.
Support.
And support. Any other questions or comments? Yes.
Comment. Just want to make an observation. After seeing these slides and knowing about these projects, I think within 5 years, we're going to see an amazing downtown. I commend the staff for all the work and the various committees that worked on these projects for getting this to this point. It's going to be fun. We're going to have to live through construction, but nevertheless, it's going to be a wonderful downtown.
Thank you.
Member Talon?
Thank you, Chair. I was thinking something similar, that there's so much prep and design and kind of work going on. It's going to be amazing what we'll see a few years from now. I also wanted to just ask a side question. I heard Tapestry Square mentioned early on and wanted to confirm that entire block where that project is going on at the south end, is that part of the expanded DDA right now, or just part of it? The entire
That
block
entire
there?
site where Tapestry Square is within the DDA boundary.
So there's potential for investment
Yep.
at the north end at some point?
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I think there aren't any questions because it's so well organized and put together. So, yeah, so kudos
Thank you.
to the staff.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, as long as I'm not skipping anything, LCC Community Outreach Initiative.
Kim.
So it's been like little over a year since we've been up here asking for funding from you guys to help support the Latino Community Coalition's initiative to interview Latinas from our community in honor of naming an alley, the Community Foundation Alley, after these women that were nominated. And it's been a long progress throughout the whole year. And I have Eleanor and Veronica here from the LCC that's going to give you kind of an update. And there's also some handouts where you're sitting as well to kind of follow along with them. But I'll invite, Veronica, do you want to talk first?
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Buenos dias. My name is Veronica Quintino Aranda, and I'm part of the LCC. And with me is...
Good morning, everyone. Eleanor Moreno, also a committee member for the LCC.
And so today we're super excited to talk to you about Herencia. I've been involved in a lot of different projects, but this project, I believe, will always be in my heart just because of all I walked with the families throughout their process as they relived their grieving for their loved Latina. And so me and Eleanor are here to talk a little bit about how the project has evolved from the beginning. At first, it was hard because we came as an LCC and we're like, how are we going to recruit these families, not face-to-face, but virtually or through either our phones or a laptop? And we were so surprised that we were able to understand the barriers of our community during a pandemic. And we were able to get 12 nominations from 12 families. And these families are women whose kids, grandkids, and spouses still live here in Grand Rapids. And they've been able to be entrepreneurs, pastors, or young professionals today working in our communities.
I think a big piece of this is also recognizing the process it took to engage these families. We were really trying to be intentional. Grand Rapids archives, there's less than 10% of, Latinx anything in any of our archive systems. If you go to Grand Valley, if you go to GRPL, and so wanting to uplift and increase that number as best as we can, recognizing again that we're in a pandemic and some of those barriers. So for us, it was really a powerful moment to be able to engage with the folks we were able to. And a part of that was some of the partners that went along on this journey. Outside of all the folks in this space, we had the Latina Network, the Hispanic Center of West Michigan, a few neighborhood associations, and specifically targeting areas across our city that are predominantly Latinx. Our ultimate original intention was like, okay, we're gonna do this process and we're gonna find one woman we could uplift as a part of that alleyway. But for us, it was really a lot of time creating some of those feedback circles and closing those feedback loops with the folks we were engaging with. And so really that took us on a big journey of like, okay, well, we're gonna find one person and here are 12 powerful women who are doing amazing things who are no longer with us.
Yeah, and so walking with the family was a big component because they are the experts. And so we would always go back and listen to them because originally we had thought that the alley was going to be named after one Latina. And after doing the videos, we stayed together with all the families an hour after they created the videos because they were grieving and we just listened to them. And so I was grieving inside, but I had to be strong for them. And so that's why it was so emotional for both Eleanor and myself and the whole LCC committee as we walked with the families. But one of the things that we heard is that they were like, well, wouldn't it be better if the alley is named after all of us? Because how can I say that my mom is better than your mom or my grandma is better than your grandma? And so we went back to the steering committee and we were like, you know what? Like, why don't we just name the alley after everybody? And so that's why the alley is going to be named Nuestra Herencia, which is our heritage. And it's going to be honoring the women in our community.
And I think a big major piece of this is when we were putting out the nominations, we weren't looking for a typical Western style, process. We weren't looking for accolades. We weren't looking for a Latina who had 1 million businesses, who had kind of those usual things. We were really trying to find the Latina who was creating community, who was bringing our culture and creating a space for more people to engage. And so these 12 women, in some shape or form, were doing that. They were really setting those values that we as a community, that really exemplify us.
Yes, and so right here, we wanted to be transparent with you because that's what we're going to do. On April 26th, we invite you to watch the 5 videos of the 5 top Latinas. And so in this brochure, you will find the submissions that we received, the ones that have a star. Those are the 5 Latinas based on the submissions and the LCC as we were reading them and crying. Like, we took a couple breaks. I took a couple breaks as I was reading this because they were so emotional. And knowing each of these 12 Latinas, that was even more powerful because it reminded me of a lot of stories that I have of them and how they have all shaped me so that I could become the young professional that I am and also the person that I am today.
So yeah, I really hope you all take us up on joining us in a couple of weeks and sharing some of these stories. We haven't even watched all the videos yet, and we say 5 out of 12 because time. You've been very patient with us, and around the pandemic, and wanting to be intentional that we're engaging our community in the best way possible. So thank you so much for that. So there's 5 out of the 12 that we were able to do, but our hopes is that we circle back to all 12 and be able to really archive that narrative and honor those women and those families who kind of been along this journey. So. Again, hopefully see you in a couple weeks on Tuesday.
April 26th. Don't forget, Studio Park. We'll be there. There'll be food, and you'll get to meet the family members, and we'll be there. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be an opportunity for us to be with our community and get to know these amazing Latina women. Any questions?
I don't have a question, but this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity, and I love it. Love it, and so I embrace you, and I will be there front and center, hugging all the families, the 2 of you, and just like that. So,
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Just as a reminder too that I can take that. This is just phase 1 of this project. So after the video, we'll be working with the LCC on the next step, and that's the actual activation portion of the alley. So we'll be back in front of you with that, with another ask for support to continue this effort. So thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, I'm sorry. Sure. Thanks. Tim, you want to go over your executive director report?
Yes, thank you. And I know some other members need to leave, so I'll be brief. I think you've seen the output of a lot of our work recently with the budget, so we're now on to the next phase of that. A couple other things I wanted to highlight. There are a few ribbon cuttings coming up for new retail and businesses downtown. 2 that you'll be familiar with would be Courage and Soar, which is a recipient of a DDA grant. That is opening on April 21. There's a ceremony at 4 p.m. And then Gazelle will be later in the month on April 29. That'll be at 11 a.m. Followed by on the 30th, there's a children's fun run scheduled from 8 to 10. And then the She Runs Half Marathon is on May 1st. So some new retailers coming down on the back of your support, and so we're excited to see those new businesses open. A few other things. One, if you saw in your vitals report this month, it was included in the packet. In March, it was the first month since COVID that we had more visitor traffic than we had pre-COVID. So we're starting to see some signs of life, which is great. Obviously, a lot more to do in terms of getting employees back and things like that, but nonetheless, we're starting to see some more activity, and we're hopeful and expect that will continue. Another thing to put on your radar, we touched on this a little bit during the budget discussion, but we are expecting to initiate a plan amendment, a DDA plan amendment, or at least starting to explore that, to look at the 201 Market site. So if you recall, the 201 Market is within the DDA boundary, but is not currently within our tax capture district, primarily because it's publicly owned, and so there's no taxes generated. But as we look at the future and what that site might become and a role that the DDA could play. We want to make sure that all the tools are available, and so we're going to be exploring that expansion, and there'll be more to come on that soon, but just wanted to plant the seed. Then wanted to acknowledge Amanda Sloan, who is with us, but this is actually probably her last meeting with DGRI, so she took a new position. But we are very thankful for all of her work over the years and wish her well in her new role. And she's graciously offered to help us out in the transition phase over the next few weeks. So we're happy to have her around, but just wanted to acknowledge Amanda's work and say thank you. And then lastly, I mean, I think one of the things that is probably on everyone's mind is the planned demonstrations and the press conference later today. So we are in close contact with the city on that. I think we're all understand that this is a very critical point for the city, downtown, and our community. Want to make sure that people have the space to demonstrate the way that they need to. And so we're really taking our cues from the city on that. We are sharing information as it comes to us. And, you know, just hoping, really just thoughts and prayers to the family that were affected. And, you know, I think we'll all be watching, and we'll see how things go. But those are my remarks.
Thank you. Any questions for Tim and his report? All right. Now's the time for public comment. If there's anyone in the public that would like to step forward, now is your chance. All right, seeing none, board member discussion. Any comments for the greater good? We all should have a tan like Jim Talon at some point in our near future. That's a goal. Have you forgot that should be goal 6?
We have a goal 6, I think 7.
Goal 7. Well, at least we also should probably congratulate Andy and all his hard work on the $55 million grant that was received, and anybody else that played a part in that. So that's amazing work that you know, should be heralded. So I'd like to say thank you to them. And yeah, I think we have reason to be subdued today. So, but I appreciate everybody being here, and we are adjourned. So thank you.
Thank you.